so much for taking the time to reminisce for us about your childhood. Where are we at?
Okay, one of my favorite memories is the house in New Jersey because that's when we did family things together. My dad and his brothers or his family were very close, and we all met at my grandfather's place probably every Sunday.
Wow.
Up until the time, well, after my dad died, but up until the time I was 9, it was just a regular thing. We get in the car on Sunday and we would drive down to Jersey, and Dad would work on the grounds. They were fixing the house or doing some building stuff with my grandfather, and the kids would just carry on with the water and running loose on the streets and stuff like that. So, okay, here's my dad in the middle, Uncle Joe on the right, and my grandfather on the left, and the beer on the table. You could count on the beer on the table. They played an awful lot of pinochle. They played a never-ending game of pinochle and drank beer and talked. And uh, Dad was a heavy smoker. You don't see it. Uncle Joe's smoking too. Okay, many events took place in the dining room of the same house. We got not everybody that I know here. Some of the people on the left I have no idea because they had a lot of friends that live up there too. On the right I know. Okay, here's my brother Joe, Uncle Fred holding Joe, me right over here. Aunt Helen was Dad's brother's wife, so Aunt Helen and her sisters, get 2 sisters here, 1, 2. Grandfather here, Grandma at the head of the table, Uncle Joe standing up. Uh, Not sure on that one. And this is probably, okay, it's my brother Rob here, but this is probably friends, relatives of friends. The beer's on the table, and it happened a lot. This is from the front, the house. We saw it from the back. This is the house, and the first room, it was his shop. He set up a grinding shop there,
Hmm.
and his customers, a lot of his customers were in Philadelphia, and he would travel with them, travel delivering stuff. But he wanted a place in the country. This was his place in the country.
Mm.
It was on the roads were not particularly paved, and he was probably on the far end of this street, heading, looked like Dad walking towards it on the muddy road. And okay, side streets were not paved. It was a wonderful place to explore with my brothers when they would agree to take me along, because we played all kinds of games in the hiding in the trees and having cookouts. They built a fire and put potatoes underground. We would cook the potatoes there, and it just is our little bit of living in the country because we were city kids. Okay, there was just a deserted house on down the road from my grandfather's place, but it was a treat that the kids should just go out and roam on the roads. We're going to walk down to the deserted house now, and off we would go. Especially like Joe is 7 years younger than me, so he was like a little toddler to take along. We're going to walk down the road, and one time Joe fell in the water, and we fished him out. The water's maybe 6 inches deep, but brought him home wet. Uh, yeah. The side road, all the way down the side road, there was like a store or a gas station or something where you could buy sodas from the big old tank soda container, and I remember that being a highlight. We had the money to go buy sodas. Okay, swimming in this wonderful big timber creek. Uh, okay, so it's Carl on the left, Rob in the middle, my brother Bill on the right, and it was interesting swimming in that water because in back here is the outhouses which empty directly into the water there. It didn't bother us. Nobody got sick. Uncle Matt, my grandfather on the left, and Uncle Matt, because Uncle Matt was the worker around there. He did more work for my grandfather. He did all the gardening work and trimming the trees. And my grandfather had the ideas, we do this, we do that, and Uncle Matt will wind up doing it. And again, Uncle Matt holding Joe, and my grandfather in the doorway back there. I'm not quite sure who that is in front of him, but we were always down there, beside every week. I clearly remember Christmas Eve down there.
So was the grinding business there?
The
He has
first,
a
yeah,
sign up.
the grinding business is that room in the front. That was where all the equipment was.
Oh.
We had at least 2 boats, maybe more, and that's my cousin Catherine taking, I'm not sure, maybe my cousin Joan
This is
out for a boat ride. Catherine was a couple of years older than a little bit older than my oldest brother, and to go out for a little row down the river and back up again. I tried it once, and I got pretty far, and they had to come rescue me. Joe, picking flowers and out, probably in the lawn there. He was such a cute kid. We were always taking pictures of Joe. At one of the family gatherings, and I'm hamming a spot right there in the front. From the right, my grandfather, my grandmother, my dad's sister, Aunt Betty. And her husband, Fred. What was the kid's name? Escapes me now, but he was a little bit younger than me. Maybe it was Freddie. It was probably Freddie. I'm not quite sure who this is. This one is not in New Jersey. This one's in our house on 4th Street, which we managed to open the table up wide and get quite a few people in. Do not recognize on the left my mom in the back and me. I'm not sure there, but there's Uncle Freddie again and Aunt Betty and my grandmother there. This is probably my dad at the head of the table and my mom at the foot. Brother Carl was an amateur photographer, and he loved to take pictures and anybody who would pose. So I had a lot of opportunity to pose for him. And this was a portrait he did of me, maybe 7th grade, something like that. And I thought that was pretty good. I like that.
Looks like it's been colorized.
Yeah, we practiced colorizing his pictures. He had a dark room set up in our house. We had like a little room that was just storage. He had his equipment set up in there, and then anything he had to do with developing, he would do in the bathroom, running water in the bathtub and everything. But he enjoyed it, and he took it seriously. So as a result, we have lots of pictures because he took them. My dad taking a break, that was his favorite Morris chair. Morris being a brand. And I guess he put in the long hours and took a break when he could. And that was my dad when he was younger. He sang in some kind of a musical group, and I'm guessing that was a dress up for a performance.
Okay, what's this?
Okay, Brother Rob making his first communion. You make first communion in 2nd grade. That's the official. 2nd grade, make first communion. It is a big deal. And we have the official photographer, Uncle Matt, who has the table and the tablecloth and whatever else. And when you make your first communion, you go to Uncle Matt, and it's outside on the side of his house, and he takes the official first communion picture. Okay, another one of Rob with the first communion picture. Okay, the one on the right is me getting my official first communion picture. Uncle Matt does this for everybody. So the boy on the left lived across the street from Uncle Matt and made his first communion at the same time. So can't remember his name, but we got him in the picture. And here we got me being very religious, reading my prayer book to pose for the picture. And it was monumental. I remember it, so it was monumental. This is some of these old-timey pictures. That's my mom. I don't know who the other three kids are, but that's my mom, much younger. And again, my mom and dad posing. She was, I guess, pretty sharp dresser, and he definitely was. So, all the way on the left, Aunt Catherine, and here on the right, my mom. I don't know what the occasion was, but they had a pretty good social life, I think, for going out and activities. I think that was Aunt Catherine. Yeah, it must be. My mom. It seems like photo studios were really a popular thing in that time because not everybody had cameras. So you would go to a photo studio and pose for a portrait. You still see them now sometime in the mall where they have the old-fashioned outfits that you can put on and have an old-fashioned picture. It was to duplicate something like this. I think that was from the photo studio, my mom on the right. Okay, dad in the middle, mom on the right, no idea who's on the left. I think mom was hamming it up. Aunt Catherine, Uncle Matt. Aunt Catherine on the left, Uncle Matt sitting down. No idea. Friends at the beach, my mom again. I think that was a studio picture again, judging by the background. My dad, looking good. My mom on the left, nice hat. Aunt Catherine, Uncle Matt, maybe a wedding picture. Looks like it ought to be a wedding picture. I think mom's on the top, and some of her buddies. I think Uncle Matt. I'm not sure.
Looks like the same.
Okay, but the woman I kind of remember as the wife of one of my dad's co-workers. Kind of. All right, this is it looks like it ought to be birthday. It's my grandmother and grandfather cutting the cake. Okay, my mom and one of the older kids, one of my brothers, I guess. My grandma holding one of the kids. My mom taking a break in the kitchen. That was before Carl modernized the kitchen. It was really bad. Carl was the carpenter, and it was really bad before he took over. Mom, and who knows. Okay, this is a picture of Dad's mother and father. And we have pictures of them much older, but they were young here. They came to this country, they brought my dad along and on a ship to come and get settled. They had Aunt Catherine with them. Aunt Catherine got here, did not pass the physical exam at Ellis Island, maybe an eye infection or something like that. She got sent back. And she had to go back and do whatever it takes to save the money to come back again. By the time she worked her way back again, my grandmother was pregnant again with Uncle Joe. And so Aunt Catherine had her hands full getting here and then taking care of things when she got here. Okay, Aunt Catherine had pointed out to me that this particular location was a tiny little rental they had for the immigrants that come over here in Philadelphia, not too far from Girard Avenue and the railroad tracks, and that's where they got their start. And then, as they saved their money, moved a little further north and settled where we wound up. Okay, Mom had a brother Carl, so they had the same mother, my grandma. And he would come regularly. I don't know if it was every week or every other week, Friday nights. Friday nights he would come and bring whoever was living with him, that's Aunt Margaret, and they would stop at Dawn Donuts on Germantown Avenue, and they always brought hot, fresh donuts. So that sticks in my mind. That was really, really a treat. So what's the next picture? So that's Uncle Carl and Aunt Helen. Okay, and whoever happened to be living there. So we got Geraldine and Joan and Uncle Carl and Aunt Margaret. I don't know what kind of work he did. That's another picture that they came with the whole family with Aunt Margaret. Obviously Christmas, and Joni and Geraldine and Uncle Carl.
He's a good-looking man.
Yes, he was. I had forgotten that. Okay, I'm guessing this might be an Easter picture. Again, they came down to the house on 4th Street. The pictures were taken in front of the house there. And, okay, so again, it looks like an Easter outfit. Check the fur piece around the neck, Geraldine's fur piece. Okay. They had a son, Bud, and he was in the service because I don't remember him ever coming down when they came to visit. He was a little older, but he was in the service. He's a good-looking kid. And we got another one of him. Yeah, and I don't have any stories about him in the service except that he was in the service because that was the time of war. Joan dressed up, and that's in front of their house. It was a good car ride. I remember we would go to the cemetery. We would go visit the cemetery, then stop at their house. And the cemetery was outside the city, visiting the dead people in the cemetery. Okay, go forward again. Geraldine, when she married, that was her husband. I have no idea the name. I think she may have settled in California. Geraldine with Carl's photo studio, doing his portrait thing. Geraldine and I think one of our kids. Looks like it may be Joe. Yeah. Geraldine played the piano. Geraldine holding probably the same cute kid. So it may have been Joe. And no, maybe one of the older kids. I don't know. But go on. Okay. Aunt Margaret's sister was a character. I guess we got Aunt Margaret's sister on the left. I remember her name. Her husband's name was Jim Finnegan, and she was a socialite. Jim was in politics in St. Louis, and I think he was a friend of Harry Truman, and they may have even gone to one of the inaugural parties. And we all, this was a big deal that her sister was a socialite. And we got a picture of Jim Finnegan. Let's go. Okay, there's Jim Finnegan. Jim Finnegan wound up in jail in St. Louis for something he did that he shouldn't have done. He used the fact that he was a friend of the president, his influence, and did some shaky deal. If you want to try looking him up, but that's a long, long family story, or a long forgotten family story. Okay, random old pictures of kids. Pretty sure that's Joni and Rob with their hand on Carl's head. We saw Will before with that hat. So that's Will and Carl in front of the same house, wherever. Okay. Left to right, from the top. Carl on the left, Bill on the right, down the bottom, Rob, and I don't think that's me. No, it could be me because there's a 2 years time difference. Could be me. Okay. In the front and center, me, and back of me, okay, from left to right, Rob, Freddie, Catherine holding Freddie, and Joni, and in the top, Bill, and then Carl. This is the street leading up to the house in Jersey, and it's Dad walking down the road, being followed by Rob, I think. No, maybe Carl. So cute, it's got to be Carl. Victor, Victor Uherko, who lived across the street. God, how I remember that name. On 4th Street. Friend of both Bill and Carl. Uh, mm, it's me and brother Rob, and I think the house may be Aunt Catherine's because of the curtain and handwork in the window. No, it probably Aunt Catherine's house.
You're adorable.
Oh, yeah. Okay, not sure if it's Carl or Bill, but the location is on Diamond Street, Aunt Catherine's house, which was Grandpa's house, and his business, his sharpening business in the storefront. Okay, and across the street was a drugstore, and it was Fox's Pharmacy. And it was Mr. and Mrs. Fox, and if you had any medical questions and you couldn't get hold of a doctor, you went to Fox's Pharmacy. You got something in your eye and you couldn't get it out, you would go over to Fox's Pharmacy and Mr. Fox would get it out for you. Rob and cousin Geraldine, I think, probably at Lake Palatine. We used to love to go to that. It was in New Jersey, and it was swimming. I'm guessing it's Catherine on the left. I'm not sure about that. If that's Catherine on the left, the little one in the back is Joni, and then his brother Carl and brother Rob. Okay, this is definitely me and Joe and Rob. And Catherine and I think Joe. It was so cute with the hat. It was to keep the sun from burning him. Uh, Not sure about the baby, but the location looks like the living room or porch on the house in New Jersey. Mm, cousin Freddie, Aunt Betty's son, cousin Freddie. That's Rob, and Rob's little toy cat, whatever it is Huntsy somebody or another, Huntsy Hoot or something like that. Cousin Catherine, my grandma, and I'm thinking maybe some of Uncle Carl's kids, younger, because that could very well be Geraldine and Buddy. That's Carl back there. Yeah, that's my guess. When my grandmother was much younger there. Bill at the house in New Jersey with boats on the side. Bill outside. It looks like the First Communion picture typed, but it's not. But he is dressed up. And this one is Carl, Bill, and brother Rob being younger. Probably the old car in the back has significance too, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, in the back, we got Bill and Carl, cousin Joni, and Rob. Mom bringing one of the new babies home. Maybe Joe. I don't know. No, maybe not, because Mom looked pretty young. It's hard to say. That's Joe, 1 year old, holding up the finger. I remember the picture being taken. I remember the big deal that he was his first standing. The first time standing, I think, was when I don't know, but he's holding up the one finger and standing. It was a big deal. Joe in bathtub, cute as can be. That's Joe on a trip to Valley Forge, up on the tower. Joe in the sailor suit. Joe just posing in general. He was a cute kid. Joe in the school picture. Joe out cleaning the sidewalk or cleaning the rugs for the car. Okay, these are a random grouping of my brothers and cousins, but old time. And this particular one, I'm pretty sure, is Bill wearing a hat to protect him from the sun. And I'm not sure about the location. I don't recognize the building. That's definitely Bill. And they did school pictures, so I don't think that was Carl's studio. I think that was a school picture. Bill and Carl out there on the tricycle.
No, where does that go? Who is this?
Bill and Carl. Okay, this is, I'm not sure which one, but I'm sure where the location. It's in front of the garage. We had a car, but the row houses, there were no garages. So you went down the street and around the corner where there were 3 and 4 garages. And we rented a garage for our car because we were in pretty good shape back then. Dad was working steady and times were good.